I don't know why I get so nervous when I start recording myself, because it's just me here, sitting here with my cats, sleeping. Um, I think it's just been a while since I've tried to put anything in video format on YouTube for a little bit, I guess. I had recorded some stuff in Miami, and then I never ended up posting it, and just in the backlog of life and motherhood and everything, like, I don't think I probably ever will. It's pretty irrelevant now at this point. But I did want to make a video on this channel, which I had really never intended to resurrect, and I don't really feel like in many ways I plan to going forward. But I did want to come back here on this video for a couple reasons. I think first and foremost to name my abuser, because a lot has happened in the past little over a month, I guess, 2 months, that has sort of changed the trajectory that I've been on in terms of trying to heal. So I wanted to obviously talk about, like, naming my abuser and why I'm doing that, and sort of what's happening going forward. And this is really for nobody at the end of the day but myself. I know I say this all the time, but I say it over and over to myself. This is just my form of catharsis, as a single mother living out this pandemic in the countryside, really isolated with my kid and my close family, just in light of where we're all at with quarantine. It's been really hard, I think, for everybody in the world. I'm not alone in that sentiment, so I don't really want to harp on, why it's so hard for me, because I think in general it's hard for everybody. Life is hard right now. So, but just to kind of say that making these videos sometimes is the only form of catharsis that I have in the moment, the only sort of positive coping that I have, because I've had to really sort of relearn a lot of my coping mechanisms, over my lifetime, to try to change my life in a more positive direction. So one of those things is when I'm feeling really low, trying to do something that helps me feel a little less so. And, this past couple months, year, whatever, life has been difficult, but, basically in the past month or so since I've outed my abuser, this all happened on my Instagram, my social media. I couldn't really anticipate, and all of this really only happening a little over a year ago. Obviously, I wasn't recovered. I'm not recovered. I won't say I jumped the gun in naming my abuser, but like I think I said in the beginning, I didn't plan to. And so I think I want to explain a little bit more about why I am choosing to name this person now, to give context around that, so obviously people don't misconstrue my intent behind it, and also obviously I guess to name that person. But it's been a rough couple days looking at myself. I can tell I'm not well slept. I'm pretty sweaty, but I don't think you can see that on the camera, luckily. My hair is clean, but I'm a mess, like I am. That's just life. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm surviving, and it will get better. But I think in trying to talk about a lot of these things that I hadn't really talked about in like specific detail and like publicly on any real scale, it just dug up a lot of the trauma and sort of like just put it back on me. So it's been this weird process of, like, there's a lot of positive that's come out and like coming forward on my social media, where like, my friends and family follow me, and like people I know, parasocial relationships, because on YouTube I don't really spend enough time to try to cultivate that. This is just fun for me, or aimless catharsis for me at this point. I never seem to really be able to stick to a direction, and that's probably another thing I could even talk about. But just bringing it all back up, it's sort of put me back a little bit. Not to say I'm like in a worse state, but it's taken an emotional toll. It's it's brought up a lot of other issues. You know, it's kind of like you get to what you think is this layer, like where the floor is, and then you finally get to that layer and you're like, ah, clean floor will be here. And then you realize, oh no, there's still another pile of clothes underneath, you know? So it's sort of that like little unraveling that I've been going through of going, aha, there's still more that needs to be worked through. And I'm okay with that. Like, obviously, a tumultuous relationship that it lasted in totality like 18 months and resulted in my child, like a lot happened in 18 months and now about 3 years since almost the first time I met this person. So I know that it's been a lot, and I've been trying to make sense of my life since all of it happened, you know. And some of the ways that I was doing that in the past year, aside from like my individual therapy, which I'm really grateful for having that opportunity, you know, to one-on-one with a therapist, was just trying to make like these videos as I could, initially on this channel and then eventually on my other channel that I started working on. And again, on both channels, I was really trying to talk very generally about my experiences without getting into details, both just to not trigger myself, because it's exhausting to retell all this stuff. Like, living it was one fucking hell, but like retelling it for other people to then hear and digest and traumatize them in a way is like a whole other story. So I was trying to like cover a lot of topics about things like, just the confusing feelings that someone, a survivor of abuse, deals with after a relationship ends, you know, that was abusive. Like, where do you go, you know? And trying for myself to cover things that interested me that maybe I thought other people would want to know about, if people wanted to know anything about what I had to say. And obviously I never got that far in the process, because what I've been dealing with in the past year or so, is my ex, my abuser, stalking me online. So I never really got to leave. Like, I never really got away from him. And a lot of that exists on my social media, which right now I have deactivated, but when I put it back up, you know, there's all that there if anybody cares to find it. Apparently people were able to find my new Instagram. I've now learned how that's possible, so that's good to know. For a fellow internet sleuth. But basically, like, this person was just constantly stalking me. They were like watching everything I did, and the way that I knew was just in very roundabout ways. There would always be I would make a video, and then that night there would be a text to my mother about what I talked about. So to be explicit, so that this isn't like a weird, hard to follow example. On my other channel, I made a video of why I still love my abuser. And that was meant to be one of these videos that I was trying to make as a form of catharsis. It wasn't really to say, like, I still love my abuser. I don't love my abuser. But it was trying to convey in the video the conflicting feelings that a lot of abuse victims have, especially like after the gaslighting and manipulation, especially when you have a child with this person, like the ways that that binds you to a person that like you don't get to take that back, you know, and how it connects you in a way. And it's a strange thing to work through, that on some level, the person that I genuinely loved and cared for and wanted to have a child with, in spite of all of the abuse I endured. I mean, I think back to myself now and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck was wrong with me? But like, I'm trying to be gentle to myself, because obviously you only know what you know when you know it. But it's hard to think about this person that really hurt you being the same person as the person that you also really loved, and how oftentimes those conflating feelings can create a lot of shame in the survivor, of just being like, you know, and part of like the gaslighting and the confusion, like, well, if I was so confused, if this was so bad, then why do I love them? You know, and trying to explain that like love is a normal human emotion. You can love somebody that does something that hurts you, and that doesn't mean you should still be with that person. And maybe that's very self-evident, but for me, these are like lessons I've had to learn in experiencing life the hard way. And so I was trying to make this video specifically about that. Not like anybody saw it. But I had posted it like on a Thursday, a couple months back, I'll say. I want to say maybe it was June or July. And I made it, and it was one of the first big videos where I was trying to really tackle things freely on my new YouTube channel where I didn't think my abuser could find me. I was naive in thinking that. So I felt like I could be more free because even though I knew they were stalking me, I thought, okay, if I can just maybe find this one last refuge, I can try to have this healing in a public way without them getting into it and then me feeling like I still can't talk because they're always watching me. And so I made that video on a Thursday. And at 1 a.m. in the morning, so that would have been Friday morning, my mom gets a text from my ex, my abuser, saying, I too will always love Nilita, but I cannot accept that I am her abuser. He sends this to my mother at 1 in the morning. And I actually made a video about this to upload on my old channel a long time ago. And it was such a long video, I could never get it to upload, and I just fucking scrapped it. So I regret that because, I mean, I still have the video, but I talk a lot about this specific incident. And so basically he texted my mom at 1 in the morning. My mom was like, what? What's going on? I don't understand. Because, like, I didn't tell my mom I made these videos because I'm not trying to, like, publicly do this for everyone to know. I'm trying to do this for myself and put it out there on the internet in a portal for the right people of the portal to find, not for like my mom and dad to see it. Otherwise I would just like fucking make a video for them to watch, you know? And not that I'm against them seeing it at the same time. It's just to express this wasn't something that I was like publicly sharing with everybody. Like, look, I just made this video. These were very much things I was doing for myself. And, so the next day, that Friday, when I talked to my mom and she told me that she got this text from my abuser that said, I too will always love Nilita and blah, blah, blah. Oh man, my heart like sank. Like for a number of reasons, like I felt violated all over again. I felt sick because I knew he had found me. And within less than like 6 hours time, 12 hours time, because you're talking like, I think I uploaded it at like 6 o'clock on a Thursday evening. And by Friday at 1 in the morning, midnight, he was messaging my mom. So like 6 hours later, something like that, less than 12 hours for sure. God, my fingers look really blue. And, so it made me really sick that like, I knew that he already had found me and like how long he'd already known of this other account, how much he'd been watching. It just was like a sinking sick feeling of like, cool, like he's got me again. He's violating me again. But then it also disgusted me because the fact that I knew he obviously watched the video, because the thing he texted my mom very like non sequitur out of the blue was, I too will always love Nilita, but I can't accept her. I'm her abuser, which is directly referencing my video where I talk about how he abused me, and I still have feelings for him as a human being, as the father of my child. And what do you do with that? Where do you put those feelings when that person has like literally tried to kill you? Like, what do you do with that? Like, so it made me feel really sick that like all he could glean from that video, which I haven't even watched in a while, so I couldn't tell you what I said, but was that I actually had love for him. Like, that just made me feel sick. Like, that he just misinterpreted the whole message like a fucking narcissist. And I don't know what him texting my mother was. Like, how is that even appropriate? Like, I don't talk to him. I blocked him. So for him to then send my mother a text at 1 in the morning in the middle of the night, she's a 65-year-old woman, about something she knows nothing about, like, that's alarming and it's weird and it's like a number of things. But I'm not here really to talk about that video. Just to say that that was one of the incidents in a number of incidences over the past year that have showed me that my abuser was not going to leave me alone, no matter how much I tried to play by their rules, no matter how much I was like, okay, look, I won't say anything, I won't say your name, I'll just be over here quietly, please leave me alone. Still wouldn't leave me alone. That's not, abusers don't leave people alone. They're abusers for a reason. I had to learn this again the hard way. And so after that happened, like, there was just a lot. I stopped pretty much making videos after that. Like, that's kind of been it since then, because I just was like really also just depressed. I'm like, I don't even know what to do now. Like, this is my life. Like, I get to live in a goldfish bubble where my ex always knows who I am and what I'm doing and who I'm with and won't leave me alone. But like, I can't ever really be free because I know he's always watching. And like, I, on the other hand, don't fucking care about his life. Like, I'm happy to be free. Like, And so I just got like tired of the hypocrisy, and I realized, okay, you're trying to play by his rules and that's still not good enough. And so it wasn't until kind of after that incident and I finally did see him after a year, and we did some visitations with my kid, that it just became apparent that he's a really bad person. He's a very dangerous person. I don't know if it's really within me to make everyone completely aware of that. I don't know if I really have that in me emotionally as a mother. Like, I just even trying to do what I did in the past month, like, I'm still recovering. So it's really put all of this into a bigger frame of like, I have to parent first and foremost. I have to parent myself and my kid. So I can't do anything that prevents me from doing that, number one. So I've definitely had to step away. I've stepped away from social media, really tried to control what comes in, because I'm very I'm just dealing with a lot of anxiety and a lot of trauma. Like, that's just what it is. Like, I'm very fearful. I'm grieving a lot of things. Like, I don't know what to say. I've had to do what I need to do to try to close myself in. But realizing that no matter what I was doing, it would never be good enough and I would always still be under his watchful eye. I just thought, like, what the fuck is the point of this? Like, what am I actually gaining? All I'm doing is protecting my abuser, allowing him to continue the same MO, abusing more people. And I don't even get to be free because I'm just like in the harem where he constantly watches me. So I'm like, no, fuck this. Like, after Miami, I got some balls, and I think I just something snapped in me in culmination with him finding that video, and like a number of other things, like I said, are on my social media account. So I'm just not even gonna bother rehashing them here because I'm fucking tired of it. But then I decided to finally just say it. And I was able, in those weeks that I was doing it, to really compile a lot of documentation that I'd managed to save somehow in the past year, which I'm thankful for, to finally start to build a case that this person has been abusing me and has been fucking stalking me, cyber stalking, you know, which like isn't necessarily a crime, which is like that's another, like, one of the things that's so hard with like abuse victims is like, where do you hide online? Like, where's your anonymity? Like, people are going to tell you to make your account private, but like, that's not fair. Like, I want to be a person. I want to be able to live my life and make friends and meet people. I just want my abuser to like respect me enough to leave me alone. And I don't even believe that he won't watch this video, as much as I want to believe now he's finally done with me because of what I did. I still won't put it past him to not watch this video, at least up until this point. And now he'll probably close it hastily because he's like so flabbergasted that I'd call him out, but probably not. I don't think he's unflappable, honestly. But I, yeah, I finally just decided to name him and told everybody, and people were really like, well, I mean, the reactions were mixed. A lot of people were very receptive, very understanding, very supportive, believed me. That helped. There were definitely people that like weren't supportive or didn't believe me, questioned me. That hurt, you know? And all of these things that I'd understood going into it, in terms of having heard abuse stories in my life, having seen documentaries, Oprah, just, you know, talk shows growing up, seeing, remembering so much this like this compilation of like, you know, the survivor telling the story of like, well, this is why I didn't talk, and me hearing those reasons, like, oh, because you were drunk at a party and you didn't want people to blame you, and you know, and like hearing all these things and going, yeah, I get that, I get that, I get that. But then at the same time, being the person I am, being like, but you should still say what happened to you because I wouldn't judge you, even if you were drunk, even if you were drinking, that kind of thing. And then finding myself as a survivor of abuse myself, and then finding the same similar questions, you know, not necessarily of like, was I drunk, blah, 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 but like, will people believe me? What will people think? I have to prove, you know, and when you're coming out of a relationship where you've been chronically lied to and manipulated and gaslighted, more people pushing against you and like making you question yourself when you've already spent a significant amount of time having to question your own reality by your abuser is just like not a go for me. Like, anybody that pushes on my reality at this point anymore, it's like a hard line. No, you do not pass, you know? Because I just don't have that ability to give people that leeway, that grace anymore. It's been abused. I'm too traumatized. I'm afraid, and I cling to my truth desperately because it's been taken away from me before, and I won't let anyone do it again. So, yeah. So my abuser, his name is Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. He is a Cuban dissident. He is a political writer. I don't know. I don't know what to call him. Whatever he wrote on his Wikipedia is what he would define himself as. Um, but yeah, that's my abuser. And he very much lives on YouTube, makes videos all the time like nothing ever happened, trying to pretend like he's a romantic poet and like erase all of his like racist and sexist and misogynist and xenophobic history on Facebook because now he's being called out. But like I don't need to worry about that. Like he's a fucking dinosaur and his days are numbered. That's just evolution. I know that, he knows that. Like I don't need to be his undoing. Like he will be his own undoing in time. But I think it's important now that I'm able to just say who it is that I can really like start honestly getting into the nitty-gritty of what happened and not detail for detail because again, like that's exhausting. A lot of that I'm actually just spending the time writing out because like the process of communicating verbally is really taxing and obviously I can talk forever. So I don't know exactly what I'll say going forward on this channel. I mean, because like I just didn't even want to add to this channel anymore. So I may never say anything again, truthfully. I may have nothing else ever to say as myself on YouTube. But if I do, and it's related to my abuser, it will be here. Because this is where he knows I am. This is where I want him to find me. He can go find me on my other YouTube like he already has, or on another one if I make another one eventually. Maybe he will. Hopefully he won't this time. But at this point, I've accepted that I don't get to control that about my abuser. It sucks. It sucks. But anything else I decide to do, I'll do it separately from here because I really don't want to have with the type of stuff I can talk about or would talk about on here relating to my abuser, Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. I don't want that mixed in with some of the other things I'm trying to do, honestly, with like the spirituality, with a lot of the social justice that I'm really interested in, with issues dealing with intimate partner violence, like a lot of things that have really come up for me being a single mom, like just things that I want to talk about for myself. Those things won't be on here because again, I still want to be able to be me and feel like I'm free. And here I don't feel free. But at least here I know who my audience is and I know what I can say. So if anything else comes up on here, it'll be related to my abuser, Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo. It sucks because I've had this account since it was my first YouTube account. It had my very first videos I uploaded like 7 or 8 years ago of when I was trying to play guitar for the first time. Nothing fancy, but it was my first channel, and I have a lot of different videos on there that some of them I'd like to save, and they all are there regardless. But yeah, I just don't really feel like this is a place where I can be free, and I said that before in the last video, so there won't be anything else here, and if there is, it will be about Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo, and it will pertain to our relationship and the abuse that I suffered at his hands. Physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually. There's a lot. But I think for the time being, I'm doing other things. I've been fortunate in reaching out and being heard, that people have been in communication with me, that I have been able to work on things on the side, and that's all I really want to say at this point. Because I don't know what anything is going to be at the end of the day, and I'm realizing it's probably just better to do what I do and then talk about it once I'm ready. So I will say that as of today, this is the last video I intend to make on this channel. This is very much naming my abuser, Orlando Luis Pardo Lazo, who has his very own YouTube channel here that he, I think it posts on all the time. So if you want to see what my abuser looks like, by all means, have at it. Although I'm sure those of you that are watching this are already familiar with him if you're not him himself. And yeah, I'm just going to get back on with my life, trying to get better, trying to heal, trying to be a good person, trying to be a better person, trying to be a good mom for my kid. Like, that's really what I want. And so much of this has been so that I can be a healed, strong enough person to help guide them through life, because life's hard. I know that. I think a lot of us do. And I want to do it to the best of my ability. And so much of this, I guess at the end of the day, if I want to talk about why I do these things, I do them for me. but I do them because I hope that they'll make me better. I hope that in talking out loud to myself and posting these videos, I have something to reflect on at some point, should I choose to. And at the very least, it's just that little form of catharsis that it gives me in this moment in time, in these past 25 minutes, sitting here alone in my family room in the middle of a pandemic, when it's pretty lonely. It's pretty lonely, pretty isolation starved, pretty physical touch starved, pretty attention starved, but all of those things are okay. And whatever I need, I try to focus on just like giving that to my kid and getting it back to them. I mean, the fact that they can hug now and really like start to interact, it's really rewarding. And I know that's the future. That's my family, not anything else up into this point. Like, my future is with them. That is where I want my life to go. That is what I'm trying to build myself to be better for them, for us, so that we can conquer the world, so that they can be strong enough to go conquer the world in whatever they want to do, But in order for them to succeed, I have to be in a good place to help them. And so all of that, I guess, has been for them, for me, for us, for this little family that we have, the two of us. And I cling to it tightly. It's all that I have at this point in my life. And I don't mean that in like a pity thing. I know there's people with a lot less. So I'm grateful for that. If that's what I have, I'm grateful for it. And that's it. That's it.